deep within the Imperium, past the Eye of Terror and within the furthest reaches of the Gothic sector, lies a legend. A legend of warriors so fast that they are not perceivable to the human eye. Warriors so skilled with the blade that they can hold off hordes of orcs easily. Warriors who fight in the name of the Golden Throne upon holy terror. Warriors that shall know no fear. These are the Argent Leviathans. The Argent Leviathans are a loyalist Space Marine chapter descended from an unknown parent chapter that was founded during the 25th founding. The warriors of the Argent Leviathans revel in the glory of melee combat, and thus many of their combat strategies rely on this. The Leviathans rarely utilize the edicts of the Codex Astartes and instead utilize their own strategies and structure. The chapter mainly recruits from their homeworld, the ocean world K-Rule. However, they have recently been forced to recruit from other planets due to a shortage of battle brothers. Established during the 25th Bastion founding on 712 M40, it is said that the Argent Leviathans were originally created in order to defend against a minor chaos incursion into the Segmentum Obscurus. After easily besting many small warbands, the members of the chapter began to become boastful and arrogant, a trait that still remains within the chapter to this day. Because of this, they would get cockier in battle, leading to unnecessary casualties. After roughly 60 years of their egos growing, due to never having a battle they deemed as a loss, the Chaos Warband, the Flawless Host, began to make their way to the Argent Leviathan's homeworld, K-Rule. It was here that the chapter had their first real fight and their first supposed defeat that crushed their inflated egos and forged a hatred deeper than the great ocean of K-Rule in the flames of battle. Once word got out that the chapter's homeworld was to be attacked, every asset the chapter had access to was recalled back to K-Rule in order to defend it. However, the assault came sooner than expected, leaving the civilians vulnerable. The forces of the Flawless Host came upon the capital of Kar-Morg, where most of the forces were garrisoned. However, they had all the civilians inside the large chapel of Aquenius Hall. All of the chapter companies were present to fight for their home, with the 4th company left to defend the fortress monastery, and some left in orbit to board the enemy's ships. Lord Magister Daethos Cordavius, the chapter master of the Argent Leviathans at the time, led the charge in Kar-Morg, with his Kraken Presidio cutting through waves of the traitors. Hoping that the enemies would withdraw once their leader died, he began hunting down their lord, Eliaxis the Flawless. Above the planet itself, the chapter's fleet fought a relentless battle against the tainted ships of the Slaneshi warband. The enemy ships were more numerous but had much weaker armaments and armor compared to the chapter's strike cruisers and battle barges. By the 14th day, the fleet had destroyed all but one of the enemy ships by torpedoes and boarding parties. However, the warband ships managed to destroy the battle barge Furore Kasabit. The only ship that remained was their flagship, a monstrosity of warp-taint and metal. On the 15th day of battle, Cordavius and his strike team of Kraken Terminators had tracked Eliaxis down to Aquenius Hall, inside a large group of civilians being gruesomely tortured by members of the Flawless Host. The possessed had yet to notice them, but if they engaged the heretic forces, Cordavius could run the risk of allowing Eliaxis to get away. But by the time he had hunted him down, the traitor Marine was being teleported back to his flagship, leaving Cordavius and by extent the entire chapter with a burning hatred that would burn on the tinder of the countless more times the chapter would encounter the warband. Eventually, the warband retreated after a large amount of melter charges were detonated during a battle, decimating their ranks, yet killing many civilians. By the end of the assault, the streets ran with blood of loyalist, traitor and civilian alike. The chapter had lost over 340 Marines by underestimating their enemy, as they had not prepared for an assault of this magnitude. 63% of the population of Kar-Morg had been killed by the traitor forces. After this, the chapter stopped fighting in large battles until they had fully regrown their strength. Nearing the end of M40, the relatively young chapter had many victories under their belt, winning countless battles without losing any notable members of the chapter. And this was until the year 923 M41, the day the great ocean raged and the Lord of the Tide got dragged away. During 923 M40, the largest storm K. Rool had ever seen hit the coast of Kaer Morg. Being the only company present on K. Rool at the time, the third company of Argent Leviathans attempted to minimize the civilian casualties by getting them to the highest point of the smallest hive city in order to protect them from over 30-foot tall waves. However, it was not just the waves killing civilians. Word quickly spread that there was a monster coming close to the shore of the city. However, believing it was just the talk of simple citizens, the brothers of the chapter ignored it. While evacuating the civilian populace, a great shadow began to fall over Kaer Morg, a sea creature nearly 70 feet tall at its highest point above the water, a creature later to be recognized as the Revenant Leviathan. After the creature began assaulting the lower tiers of the city, Lord Magister Daethus Cordavius and a strike team of Kraken Presidio went down to the city in attempts to kill the creature. Little is known of what happened to Cordavius after he descended to the city, only that he and all of his strike team were killed, but not before slaying the creature from the inside. Now, the chapter was without a leader, and Cordavius was later replaced by the commanded first princeps, William Dratus. As the end of the millennium was nearing, the Argent Leviathans were split between two different segmentums. The bulk of the chapter's forces were in the segmentum Tempestus, fighting a bloody crusade against an orc war, while the 4th, 6th, 7th and 9th companies were defending the segmentum Obscurus against an increasing amount of chaos incursions. When word reached the chapter of Abaddon the Despoiler attacking the Cadian Gate, the bulk of the forces began to make their way to Cadia, ordering the companies within the Segmentum Obscurus to retreat to the chapter's home subsector, Norian subsector, and protect it against chaos attacks. However, due to the warp instability at the time, the bulk of the forces never reached Cadia in time, and instead made an emergency exit from the warp after Cadia was destroyed. This action spat the chapter's bulk out within the Ultima Segmentum, where they heard of the resurrection of Rabute Gilliman. Upon hearing this, the bulk of the chapter quickly mobilized to join the resurrected Primarch in the Indomitus Crusade. However, these were the lucky ones, as the 4th, 6th, 7th and 9th companies were now trapped within the Imperium Nihilus and were forced to defend the Norian subsector from demonic incursions before slowly being pushed back further and further before finally making their last stand in the Kairulian system. As demonic incursions became more frequent, the companies left within the Dark Imperium attempted to defend the Norian subsector, were slowly pushed back to their homeworld of K. Rool. After being chased through the subsector by the great demon of Slaanesh, Ronan Pyredancer, the companies gathered the civilians to make their final stand. Led by the 6th Princeps, Corban Octarius, the Astartes began to prepare their defense for the inevitable attack on the planet. The small number of forces left on the planet managed to hold off the demon onslaught before Octarius decided to evacuate all civilians and some Astartes on whatever spacecraft they had left on the planet. After a large amount of debate about the Astartes leaving, Octarius managed to convince the 4th, 7th and 9th Princeps to evacuate what little forces they had left on their companies onto the ships. While the Astartes were evacuating civilians, the 6th Company began to hold off the demon forces, coming face to face with the leader of the horde, Ronan Pyredancer, greater demon of Slaanesh. After the evacuations were completed, the 6th Company alone managed to hold off the demons for another 6 days before being eradicated. The final survivor was Octarius himself, who was subsequently burnt alive by the greater demon. The evacuees eventually came into contact with Rabute Gilliman's Indomitus Crusade and were brought back to the rest of their chapter. With the 6th Company entirely wiped out, the chapter command begrudgingly accepted the offer of Primaris reinforcements, turning the 6th Company into an entirely Primaris force. Upon the arrival of the Primaris, the disdain that the normal Astartes had to them was very clear, as they were completely isolated from the rest of the chapter, being put into one single company. The Leviathans seemed to only tolerate the Primaris Marines, believing them to be worse than the original Marines due to their lack of knowledge of the Caerulean and Argent Leviathans' culture. Due to the constant neglect shown to them by the rest of the chapter, the Primaris Leviathans are known to be extremely bitter individuals, begrudgingly completing any task given to them. The combat doctrine heavily revolves around the Leviathans' two favorite methods of combat: close quarters combat and spearhead strikes. During a battle, the chapter will have most devastator and tactical marines perform a slow advance upon enemy lines, drawing their fire, while assault marines and other melee-oriented squads fight through the enemy lines in order to kill the leader of the enemy force. This is appropriately named the Spearhead Doctrine, as while the shaft holds it together, the blade goes in to rip the throat out of the enemy force by killing their leader. If scout squads are available during an assault, the melee units may not fight through the enemy, as the sniper units may take out their leaders. Once the enemy's leader is dead, they tend to turn into a state of disarray. During the enemy's confusion, the chapter will have units surrounding the enemy force and quickly advancing, choking the force and allowing none to escape. The beliefs of the chapter are heavily rooted within the beliefs of Caerule. As such, they worship a slightly altered version of the standard imperial cults, known as the Cultum Abyssi. The Cultum Abyssi, or Cult of the Abyss in Low Gothic, is a slightly altered version of the standard imperial cult and the religion of Caerule. The people of Caerule and the chapter believe that the Emperor is the one and only god in the universe, and he will guide them to salvation among the stars. They believe that upon a worshipper's death, they will descend into the Abyssi Magni, the Caerulean name for its great ocean, where they will find the Emperor and serve him once more. Because of this, the chapter makes no use of dreadnoughts and instead gives the Emperor's peace to any grievously injured Astartes, as they think once they are trapped in a dreadnought sarcophagus, their soul will be trapped in it, making them unable to join the Emperor at the bottom of the ocean. Upon the death of a battle brother, the chapter will try to find what remains of their corpse and send it back to the chapter's fortress monastery on Caerule, where the dead is to be ceremoniously jettisoned into the Abyssi Magni for them to serve the Emperor in the afterlife. Due to their beliefs, the Leviathans are very commemorative of their dead, and because of this, the chapter has an entire hall with their flagship reserved entirely for remembering the dead, known as the Hall of the Sunken. The Hall of the Sunken is a large space within the center of the chapter's flagship, the Mors Ab Altar. Within the Hall of the Sunken is every single Argent Leviathan that has fallen in battle. Due to the ceremony of each Astartes corpse being returned to the Abyssi Magni, a piece of the brothers' armor is used to remember them, usually a helmet. Near the end of the hall lie the heroes of the chapter, including Corban Octarius, and at the end of the hall is Lord Magister Daethos Cordavius. Due to Cordavius' armor being damaged beyond recognition during his fight with the Revenant Leviathan, the 10-foot-tall head of the Revenant Leviathan itself lies as a reminder of Cordavius' deeds. Each fallen Astartes is given a pedestal made of part of the bones of the Revenant Leviathan, upon which sits their memorabilia. The name, rank, and deeds of the Astartes are inscribed on the pedestal as well. Also, a short line written by the brothers that knew the fallen is inscribed at the top of the pedestal. Some examples include, upon the pedestal of Corban Octarius is written, "Mocked in life, praised in death, saved the lives of millions, took many more, and gave one to do it all." And upon the pedestal of the revered original chapter master, Daethos Cordavius, is written, "The Lord of the Tide now sleeps below it. His deeds will remain echoed through the halls of eternity, and those he slew left to rot where the tide came to take their debts." Surprisingly, the gene seed of the Argent Leviathans do not contain many major deformations. However, it does have one, which has almost 100% mutation rate within the chapter. Within the Argent Leviathans, this is known as the Mortus Oculus. The defection known as the mortis oculus is actually a highly sensitive oculobe, meaning that the oculobes in Astartes affected by the mortis oculus is overly sensitive, allowing them to see easily in very low light locations, such as in deep ocean, making them extremely efficient during night operations, which complements their spearhead tactics. However, this also results in sunlight being blinding to the affected Astartes. Because of this, the helmets of the Argent Leviathans are tinted in order to let them see more easily in highlight scenarios. However, this results in the Astartes choosing to either stay within the building or within their armor during the day. Because of this, most battle brothers of the chapter almost never interact physically with sunlight, making them extremely pale. No matter what the case of enemy or quarrel, deception or rebellion within the Gothic sector, the Leviathans will answer the call and blood will be spilled on one side or the other.